Hello everyone, this is Doug Dysert, your favorite chess variant stream announcer. At least I hope so anyway. Today I will be offering interesting commentary for another Trice's chess contest. It should prove to be rather exciting since it involves two strong players of the game, both with unorthodox attacking styles that are pretty aggressive. This time I will not be playing, I will be watching and commenting on the game that's live and about to start. So I can tell you from firsthand experience, it's tough to annotate your own game and progress while you yourself are one of the combatants. You have to focus on your play. You have to watch the recording of the video to make sure things are going okay. And then you have to announce your thought process and make sure you're not overlooking anything. Also, you have to respond to the play in a timely fashion. So basically, you actually have to create your own pressure to play well and continue the discussion smoothly. And you have to do all that without stumbling over your own words, which is much easier said than done. That's why I am happy to host the video connection and chat freely without the pressure to play the game myself and do it well. Our Discord discussion group has recently seen a match between two of the strongest players that we know of as of the year 2023. These players are the inventor of the game, Ed Trice, and a 20-year veteran of 80 square variants, including Janus chess, Embassy chess, and even Ed's variant, and he goes by the online handle of Letchworthshire, which is in reference to where he's from in Great Britain. He is very close to the expert class rating, once converted to the USCF scale, and that would actually be about 2,000 ELO. The two of them recently played a short match, and it was won after one of the players scored a third win, and the draws did not count toward the total. So the first game in that match was a really hard-fought draw with a fair amount of treacherously sharp combinations and complex strategies that were employed. The traps that were set in that game were amazing, and each phase of that game, including the opening, the middle game, and the end game, it contained positions worth replaying and analyzing. And for those of us who are aficionados of Trice's chess, it was definitely a gem. And so that match ended up being won by the inventor of the game, and that was with a final score of 3-1 with one draw. So after the usual competitive chatter that follows a hard-fought match between two rivals, another challenge was actually issued, and here we are again, and we're waiting for things to start. This is an unclocked game where Letchworthshire won the digital coin toss, and he actually chose to play with the black pieces for some reason. So in fact, Ed will have white in this match, in this game anyway. And so both players agreed not to take more than 10 minutes for any particular move throughout this game. So I will be watching the game to make sure that does not occur. If someone does overstep, I've been instructed to issue one warning, and should it happen a second time to the same player, that player loses by time forfeit. So hopefully we'll see a faster pace game until things invariably become more complicated. And then who knows, just get your popcorn ready. And actually, you see that actually the moves come in already. So looks like we have H4, and this opening actually has an interesting name. It's the Ervogel. That's actually a German word for ancient bird, which is a pun of sorts. So Henry Bird invented the opening 1F4 in 8x8 chess back in the 1860s or thereabouts. And in Ed's 10x8 variant, the move 1 to H4 is the closest equivalent to the idea behind the ancient bird with a capital B opening. So Ed named it the Ervogel out of respect to Henry Bird. And so apparently Letchworthshire wasn't expecting that because he's been pondering that for a little while. But here we go. So and I would just want to mention to you guys, if you're new to this variant, typically we see like knight to h3, archbishop to h2, pawn to g3, and bishop to g2 as a continuation. And and sometimes there's an occasional interjection of some other pawn moves along the way. The motivation behind the early move to h4 is to create an easy rook lift later on, not dissimilar to the Henry Bird's opening ideas in 8x8 chess. And so we have Letchworthshire actually made a reply of d5, which puts its mark on the e4 square this early. And moves like knight to h6 for black and pawn to e5 are replies I have also seen. And so at this embryonic stage, it's still possible to transpose into these lines. So, and then white, Ed's actually played his knight to h3 here. And so, the alternative, I was kind of expecting d4. So, but those are both good moves, obviously. And so there's not necessarily a need to try anything fancy yet. So, let's see here. Oh, and we got a move from Letchworthshire. He's played knight to h6. So, just normal kingside development. And so no surprises thus far. And we'll see. What do you think? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was kind of thinking d4 looking at that. But yeah, it looks like white supports his h-pawn here by playing g3. And he's making room to get his the bishop on the light squares out. So there's not really any need to worry about like black playing bishop takes h3 because white's archbishop can always recapture on h3, and that would preserve white's kingside pawn structure. So then black's already made a reply of d4 here, and with that pawn thrust, black has taken away any chance of white playing knight to c3, and that's without white losing time first to contest the occupation of d4 here. So I would say it's not uncommon really to stake out such territory with a second pawn push in this game, unlike in 8x8 chess, because in that game it has a narrower board and less material to work with. And then we see that white has played d3 here, so he's throwing up a necessary stopping block here. With that pawn to d3, he also releases the bishop on c1. And you'll notice that even at this early stage, white has a very nice two-toned pawn structure where both bishops have excellent corridors to patrol here. And so then black throws out knight c6, and he gets his second knight into play here, holding onto that d4 pawn from c6, and he's surveying the e5 square for possibly putting his knight there soon. And so, or it could even be occupied by a pawn. And we will see that the archbishop going to h2 here would stop a knight, from going to i4 by black. And then maybe bishop to g2 would get white closer to castling kingside. So one thing to keep in mind, the move order there can be kind of important. And okay, so now I was talking about bishop to g2 or archbishop to h2, but actually white goes bishop e4. So that takes ownership of that hole left wide open on e4, and then it points the bishop toward that vulnerable h7 square, which is at this point still guarded by the archbishop on g8. And then okay, so black's played queen d7 here. Now that's you can kind of see that that's a pressure move, as you got a c8. There's a battery there from c8 to what is that, j1? Yeah, so on the c8 to h3 or j1 diagonal there, you see that it's being threatened after the queen went to d7, and it would be kind of better, I think, if I were black here. I would rather have the queen on behind the bishop, since that would allow a nasty combination potentially of the bishop taking on h3. And then even if the archbishop recaptured, then the queen could come from behind and recapture, and that would damage white's kingside pawn structure. So, but that wasn't possible there. Now, the knight actually goes to i5, which you see working in tandem with that bishop on e4 is actually the first double attack of the game. So the archbishop on g8 is guarding h7, but the knight on i5 and the bishop on e4 are both hitting it. So black is going to need to make a defensive move here, and he's done that by playing g6. So now white could have played knight to g5, but I don't know. Maybe there's a reason why he went to I5 instead of G5. So obviously that G6 reply was a real simple remedy to interfere with that bishop, and also conveniently frees that bishop on H8. And so now we've got the archbishop coming out, and it's definitely looking like a fight because you see that that's hitting the queen. So Ed here is basically daring black to sacrifice the heavy exchange by taking on H3, and then if the knight recaptures, the bishop takes, and then the pawn can recapture, and you know that could mess up the pawn structure a little bit, but I would say that would be fine, especially getting the heavy exchange there. So, you know, does black flinch here and play something like a timid move like pawn to E6? Does he try something a little bit crazier like knight to F5 and block the archbishop? What will black do here? We don't know. Let's see. What do you think? Oh, and he does something that is a little, it's kind of both. So black actually injures two birds with one stone here. Since no birds were actually killed by this push of the pawn to F5, you see that the white archbishop on H3 is blocked, and the white bishop is threatened. The white square bishop is threatened more than just idly and should probably make a run for it. We hoped we would see some fighting early, and as you can see, it's already started. All right, so then white retreats the bishop to G2. That's a strategic, or actually, I guess I would say it's a tactical retreat. And that's a retreat of the so-called defensive bishop, since it safeguards the H3 square early on here. And see, so the bishop on C1 hitting on H6, that possibly could take the knight with check. And so we refer to that one as the attacking bishop in this 10x8 variant. All right, and then we see that, let's see, oh well. So we got J6 there by black, and that's actually repelling white now by putting the pawn on J6. He's put the question to the knight there. And so the white knight really only has one safe haven, and that would be back to J3 there. So, you know, knights really aren't effective from this far-flung side post. So I'll have to say that black is definitely removing some of the momentum white had previously enjoyed there. All right, so not much to say there, just of course, really, because I don't know where else the knight would have gone. All right, so black to move, I don't know, I feel like black's getting an initiative here. What do you think? Okay. Letchworthshire's thinking. Yeah, I don't know. So many good moves here for black, you know. What will he do? What will he do? Okay, goes bishop G7. So as Russian Grandmaster Savielly Tucker would say, tactics is what you do when there's something to do, and strategy is what you do when there's nothing to do. And certainly that bishop on G7 was played because, well, there wasn't really anything else to do there. Okay, so, oh, and then white has castled here. So in a perfectly safe environment, white is castled to the king side, and that's a strategic move with no tactics on the horizon, similar to that bishop to G7. Interestingly, white has not yet moved a single piece on the queen side of the board. Very interesting. Okay, well, oh, and then black brings the archbishop out. So if you look at this, folks, because you'll never really see this in the 8x8 chess, I just want to point out you got a triple battery on the same diagonal. We talked about that battery before, the C8 to J1 diagonal. So keep your eye on that pawn, that black pawn on F5. For when it actually launches one giant step forward for pawn kind, there will be a furious attack to follow. So yeah, if white wanted to, if you look here, the ultimate safety net there is white could actually, I'll just kind of point it out to you guys, the chancellor here could go to G1, and if he slid over to G1 there, he would guard the archbishop on H3 and the pawn on I2. So that would be like a real nice safe move there. And I might be tempted to do that just to kind of overprotect here. So in fact, if the chancellor went to G1, white could move the queen over to F1, and then the queen would hold the bishop, and it x-rays through the archbishop on H3. So it would actually be a triple battery. So that's a defensive stronghold even the most paranoid player would love. But something tells me here that Ed is not going to tie up those powerful resources in a purely passive role. So I know with super majors like that, I probably wouldn't do that. So let's see, what do you think is going to happen next? Okay, so White's thinking, and oh wow, so he pushes to c4. Now what he's done here, he's locked the d5 square pretty firmly by pushing that pawn there to c4, and so Black doesn't really want to take en passant on c3, since that knight coming out to c3 recapturing would just free that piece up, and it would still hit that important square of d5. So I don't think the Black would do that, and so Black has castled here, and castle kingside. So I think we could say really at this point that the opening is over. Both of the kings look pretty safe to me, and I can't really see how either side will attack. You know how it would commence here, and so what do you guys think? Seems like the battle lines have clearly been drawn, but who is going to invade here, and how will they do it? Okay, so now we got the knight going back to h2, and I think most of us expected that move eventually, and here it is now. And so the problem that I'm seeing here is that White must get both the archbishop, and you see the archbishop over here, and then you got the knight, and he needs to get them out of the way of that rook on h1 before he can unleash that powerful pawn break of h4 to h5. So maybe through the process of bishop takes knight, archbishop to j5, and then followed by a knight to i4, then maybe you can get that h4 to h5 in, and then so now Black has played his chancellor to f6, and I really must say it seems like that's a mistake to me. So you see that gives White a free shot with the bishop on c1, and I don't think that Ed's going to miss that free move. So let's see if he plays the bishop to g5 there, get that free kick of that chancellor. So I don't know. Oh, and so yeah, he goes ahead and does it. Seems like kind of a reflex move, and so Ed played that move quicker than Mercury racing Hermes up the Capitoline Hill, and things are going to, I think, get murky for Black here. So I don't know. It seems like Black's going to need to go back to where he came from with that chancellor. So it may have been a mistake. We'll see if he loses a tempo or two out of that. Oh, and wow. So that's a very, very risky move, that chancellor to h5. So what do you think Black is up to here? It seems like the chancellor has literally no safe square to retreat to if attacked. So what would his answer be, if like the white bishop goes to f3? Would he interpose maybe with the knight to g4? What is Black up to here with that chancellor move? Don't know. What's White going to do? You think he'll kick the chancellor again? And so yeah, I don't know. White's thinking, but I'll say that Leicestershire, he's known for surprising moves, and especially his chancellor escapades. You may recall actually the incredible game he had with National Master John Veery, where Leicestershire actually sacrificed 3 minor pieces for just 2 pawns to create a stunning repetition draw using only his chancellor. And his most recent chancellor sortie against Ed Trice in Game 4 of their match, where his chancellor walled off Ed's king and became a virtual wrecking ball, forcing Ed's resignation in that game. So Ed's still thinking here. He has no snap reply, and so he must suspect something's up as well. Can White provoke this vulnerable piece just sitting there, one attack away from apparent annihilation? There must be something complex at work here, or else Ed would have probably made an instant reply. So I just don't see all of the ramifications. All I know is that there's got to be danger lurking here, and this definitely seems like a critical position. So I'm checking the time, and all still seems good. White's still thinking, and he must be thinking about attacking it. So let's see. Oh boy. Oh, and wow, and just like that, he actually does go ahead and attack it. So you see, this is it, guys. It was a critical position, and now it looks like someone's going to have to either break through or go home. And the battle here is going to be on the white squares, folks. So White owns I4, and Black is getting tossed out on the street after, let's see, if Knight takes I4, then Archbishop takes on I4, and then the Chancellor goes to J4, and that would look forced in that situation. And then the Archbishop could just go back to H3, and then I don't think Chancellor to I6. Checking is what Black really intended here. So I would count, that pawn to F4 releasing pawn going from F5 to F4 would release that triple battery. So I'm kind of thinking that could happen. And so if White takes the Archbishop, then he takes the black archbishop there on e6, and then the black queen would have to recapture, and then let's see, white is forced to play the pawn to g4, or else it would be queen to i2 mate with that battery. So in that position where white would be hanging by a thread, I can't really envision a good follow-up for black. So does black have a good continuation here after coming so close? Let's see. All right, so actually, yeah, the knight takes on i4. So black spent some time there, but it must have been on moves that are yet to come and not just that particular move. And who knows, maybe he regrets the whole Chancellor attack there. So we'll see. We'll find out very soon what's going to happen here. Okay, wow. Okay, so then you can pretty much toss out everything that I was talking about out the window there, because white just takes with the knight on i4, and he leaves the black Chancellor actually in peace. Basically, it's ostracized on h5 with no meaningful targets in range. So is this a rare middle game Zugzwang we're seeing? Are we just seeing a lot of tension along that c8 to j1 diagonal that we've talked so much about? Is it enough to inflict a super rare condition of mutual Zugzwang? And look out! So we got the f4 move. So we've really got some crazy tactics going on here with some tricky intermezzos to boot. White needs to play the Chancellor to g1. I have no doubt about that. And he needs to protect h3 for certain. So, man, what's going to happen here next for black? Let's see. So, so we got the f4 in. And so, I don't know, there's a crazy j4 move. The Chancellor could go to j4 here, and does that undermine the h3 square? Is anybody really following that as an idea? And I would say when there's pressure, you should add even more. So if anyone saw how Letchworthshire undermined my overloaded Chancellor with his late endgame toss of his own Chancellor at me, then just look at my last live streamed games with Lech, and you'll see it. So I'm thinking here, let's see, Chancellor to g1, and then Chancellor to j4 for black, and then Archbishop takes on j4. White Chancellor, or the white Archbishop takes the Chancellor, and then the black Bishop takes on j4. And now white's Chancellor on g1 would be attacked by the black Bishop, so then I would play the white Chancellor to j3, or h3 I should say, and next I would, and then I think that would interfere along with that strong diagonal battery, but you have to watch out for a sneaky intermezzo of the pawn going to j5, and that black pawn on j5 would hit that knight on i4, and then we're just downtown in Crazyville at that point. So if white plays Chancellor to j4, at that point, ignoring the knight that's hanging, then you have a bang and a zoom. You have black going Archbishop to i2, and then things get really messy and complex from there. Let's see, I would look for counter strike at black's triple battery with bishop going to h3, and then there would be more fireworks after black Archbishop takes on j4. So you have the white bishop taking the queen on d7, black recaptures, and then white can move the queen to f1, and then you'd have a black pawn taking the knight on i4, and then the queen could recapture on i4, and then the Archbishop could go to h5, and then the queen would take on h5, and the pawn would recapture, and that's about as far as I can really see without my head just bursting. So, while white is still thinking here, burning some clock, I have to say that I'm thinking he's really looking at all these crazy options, and still we don't have anything here from Ed yet. And come on, Ed, let's see what he's going to do. I'm just dying to find out. And he plays the bishop takes, and so bishop takes on f4 there, and I would really say that, wow, this is crazy, because Ed's really left the gunpowder in the keg, and Letchworthshire has really got his hands on the matches now. So we have the bishop taking on f4 really postpones all of what I just talked about. And yet again, it doesn't really change the situation. So as Aristotle would say, nature abhors a vacuum. And by that, I'd say Aristotle really was kind of referring to holes or gaps have a tendency to get filled in. And these fissures here with compound attacks waiting to happen definitely are creating vacuums in this volatile position. Look at how white can get destroyed here if allowing the vacuum to persist. You have like Archbishop takes h3, Bishop recaptures on h3, and then the Black Chancellor goes to j4, which is pressuring h3, and then that's a little bit different there, but White can't really take the Queen, since Bishop takes d7 would lead to Chancellor takes i4 check, White King goes to j1, and then the Bishop recapturing on d7 actually would lead to a checkmate. So while we're waiting for Black to move here, can you really believe we're only on move 16? I mean, how awesome is it that in this great game, you can create such tactical fireworks so early? And this game is way better than 8x8 chess. So all you new viewers out there, tell people about Trice's Chess, and don't forget to visit triceschess.com. So still nothing here from Black. So Letchworthshire is thinking, what's he going to do? Oh, goodness. All right, so now we have Chancellor to j4. All right, so finally someone listened to me. Black played his Chancellor to j4, which is really pressuring h3 directly, and it's also indirectly adding even more strength to that triple battery, c8, d7, and e6. So White could get checkmated here if he were to take that Black Archbishop. He has to be very careful. So if, let's say, Archbishop takes on, let's see, how would this go? Yeah, so you see here, if the Archbishop were to take on e6, right? And then Black could actually bring the Chancellor down to j3, and so that kind of got crazy there. The king would have gone to i2, and then the queen would retake with check, and it's easy enough actually to see that that could have gone to the end there with White getting checkmated. So if you didn't see that, then I would say, you need to practice your tactics there, young seekers of wisdom. And so taking the Chancellor with the Archbishop would have been a slower suicide. So hopefully you see that Archbishop takes j4, and then Bishop takes j4, preventing the Chancellor going to g1, which would have held h3 for more than just that one move. So Black could have sacrificed the Archbishop for White's knight and his queen for White's Archbishop because of where the Black Chancellor is. And that's really an important tactic for players of this variant. So if you consider like Archbishop to g5, takes on g5, and then h takes g5, and then queen takes h3, and bishop takes h3, bishop takes h3, rook takes h3, Chancellor takes h3, and it becomes clear that White would have had to play king i2, and then after Chancellor takes f2, the Black Chancellor can always return to check and check and check again for what could have been a threefold repetition. So, but now on move 17, you see that the White Knight went to g5, and it's striking at both the Black Archbishop and also defending the White Archbishop on h3. So that was definitely a beautifully timed move there, and it really holds down the fort. So Black can still liquidate, even at some great material cost here, and still he could come away fine thanks to yet another game of Letchworthshire Chancellor wizardry. So yeah, this is interesting. That knight moves look really good. Okay, so we see that Black is still thinking. So what's he gonna do here? Got crazy tactics going on. What's he gonna do? Okay, yep. Oh wow, okay, so there it is. That's a high pressure move there. The Black Bishop taking on g5. You really look at all that force that's pointing at h3. Black's Bishop is x-raying h3 through the Black Queen. The Black Chancellor is hitting it, and then the Black Archbishop hits it. And so White's i2 square is really vulnerable to checkmate threats. And if the White Archbishop loses sight of that, that could be really bad. So, this is really turning out to be a great game. Okay, and then So Ed retakes on g5 with his bishop and not with the h-pawn. And of course, I thought it would be the h-pawn. So I guess that's nothing new for me predicting the wrong moves. But we're going to see some massive simplifications here, I believe. Okay. All right, and there we go. So score another one for me, your favorite variant play-by-play announcer, as Leicestershire did, in fact, play queen takes h3. And black has the easiest checkmate in the world to spot there on the I2 square, so we know how white's going to have to proceed here. All right, and there we go. So no surprise there, I hope. If you didn't see that move coming, then you're going to have to go sit in the corner for punishment, as the white bishop just recaptured on h3. Okay, so... Oh, and there we go. So black had an easy choice there, bishop taking on h3. So now black is threatening a deadly chancellor's vortex, with the chancellor and the bishop both hitting on I2. So white's going to have to give up his rook for that bishop. Otherwise, it's going to be chancellor to I2, king to j1, and then that's going to give that chancellor a free move that reveals a check with the bishop behind it. And so that would have been a special 10-by-8 windmill in the vortex. However, rook takes h3 kind of gets rid of that. All right, so there's no rush here. All right, yep. So as expected, the chancellor just takes the rook for check. So white's in check here, and yep, he has to move his king, so no explanation necessary. Okay, so we're up. Okay, so the chancellor takes the pawn on f2 for check here, and kind of expected that one. So if white tries to escape here if it's third rank, it really won't work because like king to i3, chancellor to g4 check, king goes to h3, and that's running at the chancellor. But then the chancellor goes back to f2 with no pawn there this time, and that would repeat. So otherwise, you have king to i3, chancellor g4, and then if the king goes to j3, then in fact there'd be chancellor takes g3, and that's actually a checkmate. White could get helpmated here if you're not careful. Okay, so he goes back to I1. Looks like Ed didn't really want to make him work too hard for the draw there. So let's see. Now wait a second. I think he's trying to tempt black into playing chancellor takes queen here, which loses. That could lose in a big way to chancellor retakes chancellor, because that would be what 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pawns versus 8. Yeah, so white would be up the chancellor versus just a rook, and 1 pawn for black is the material difference there. So I don't know that black wants to take that queen. Where is he gonna go? You think he'll take the queen? I don't think he wants to simplify here. Okay, so yep, and so yeah, Leicestershire did not fall for that last-minute low-hanging poisonous fruit offering. So there's the start of what probably is some repeat. So a draw was orchestrated here by Leicestershire using his chancellor to repeat, and he did the same thing. You may recall against National Master John Veery, using his chancellor to repeat there, and then he also beat Ed Trice in one game of their match when he used his chancellor to wall off Ed's king. And now here he's completed an impressive game using the chancellor to force a draw when the smoke cleared after this exciting shootout. So Leicestershire is definitely a chancellor aficionado of sorts, and maybe we'll interview both players about this game in a later video. So guys, don't forget to share this video if you like this new way of playing. Come join us at chess.com/variants and look for the Gothic Chess button. They still use the older name there. And of course at triceschess.com we have over 80 games now, and you can replay or watch them as movies. So there's also a link to the Discord server there where you can chat and post with other players of this game. And there's a slow-paced site here at greenchess.net where you can take over a day, almost a week actually, per move for those who are just learning how to play this variant. So appreciate you checking out this video. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to smack that like button down low. Subscribe so you can check out more videos like this coming up. Make sure to hit the notifications bell so you don't miss them. And leave a comment or two in the comments below. Say nice things if you can, and let us know what you think. So hope to see you in the next video, and thanks for checking us out. We'll see you next time.